Good morning, everyone. Dan Bates, President and CEO of the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we are glad you are joining us this morning for another Coffee and Conversations. Today, we have an exciting presentation, well, not a presentation, but a discussion and a how-to from a computer expert. And so we're going to hear from Matt Laney in just a little bit, but we're going to find out who's all joining us this morning. In the meantime, I want to just inform everybody, if you're on Zoom, I'm sure Matt won't mind if you interrupt him during the any conversations to ask him a question. This morning's format is really about taking advantage of his expertise and all those things you don't know. He's going to answer all those questions about your computer today. So we're going to do self-introductions in just a minute. Like I said, if you are on Zoom, you can ask questions. If you're on Facebook Live, which a large part of our audience usually is, you can type your questions into Laura and she will repeat them so Matt can answer them for you. So with that being said, I'm going to look at my screen, and Chris, you're up next. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dan. Chris Cannell. I'm the coordinator of community outreach and alumni relations for the Hamilton City Schools.
Ben, you're next.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Ben Cornish with First Financial Bank, Vice President, Community Outreach and Financial Wellness.
Alicia.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Booth. I'm with Liberty Station Health Campus in Liberty Township.
And Matt, it's your time to dazzle us.
Well, I hope your expectations aren't quite that high, but thank you and good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Laney. I am the owner and operator of Home PC Helpers, formerly Home Computer Helpers. Just a quick bio. I grew up on Smith Road in Hamilton, went to school and graduated from Ross. Moved to Hamilton County for a while, but made the pilgrimage back. So certainly want everybody to know that not only was I always excited and willing to service people in the Butler County area as well as Hamilton County, but now I'm going to focus a lot of my resources in advertising here since it's my hometown again. Very humble upbringings on Smith Road in Hamilton. We were poor back then, but didn't know it. I don't know how many of you are longtime Hamiltonians or lifetime Hamiltonians, but my mother worked for quite a while at a since, well, I don't know, it was kind of famous at the time, Willis Shoe Store on Main Street. And my father retired from Mosler Safe Company, so two Hamilton staples. So really, like I said, there's nothing that I can tell you about what's about computers to lecture you. So I kind of wanted this to be an open forum. If you guys had any questions, first of all, there's no stupid questions. I get that preface a lot. This might be a stupid question. Well, I don't know HVAC, and that's why we call them professionals. So if you have a question about computers, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Please feel free to ask. But other than that, I'm just here to answer your questions. And of course, well, that's about it. Forgive me for rambling. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining.
All right, Matt, I'll have a question. I need a new laptop. Just something for here at work. Use two devices. So I've got a desktop that I've probably on its last leg, and I've got a laptop that I'm currently using. What are some of the newest features and things in laptops and brands maybe you would recommend?
The single greatest technological advancement that we have made, and I would say probably the last 15 years. I mean, certainly with the advent of the multi-layered Intel or the AMD processors, they certainly have gotten faster, but hands down, the single greatest improvement has been the solid state drive. So whatever new laptop you get, look for a solid state drive. It is roughly 40 to 45 times faster per second in the read write time. Which, having said that, can bring back to life a laptop or a desktop that you have written off as being old and being decrepit. Sometimes, the computers or the laptop still has a decent processor inside it. It still has adequate memory to run Windows 10. May not get to Windows 11. There are a couple of hoops that it has to jump through. An additional level of security on the processor, but Windows 10 by upgrading to a solid state drive. And I do that quite a lot for customers because we can breathe new life into their computers and laptops, but they don't lose any data. So what I would do is actually go to their home, pick up the laptop or computer that they're interested in upgrading, and bring it home, disassemble it, pull the hard drive out, hook both the new solid state drive and the old hard drive to a slave workstation I've got here in my office, and clone the drive to the new solid state drive, and then install the solid state drive. The benefit to that is you're right where you left off, but you're running 40 times faster. Your boot times go from 2 full minutes usually to around 30 seconds from a cold boot. Your applications open up a lot faster and shut down a lot faster. The whole experience is faster because that one bottleneck is that read-write time on the traditional hard drives. So by going to a solid state drive, which has no moving components, they're just banks of memory, it will breathe new life into a computer or laptop that you've written off. I am currently using a laptop right now that a client said, "Get out of my life." I've upgraded to a solid state drive, and I'm not looking back. And I said, "What are you going to do with this one?" And he said, "You can have it." And I said, "Well, let me give you a little bit something for it." I said, I still felt bad, but after a solid state upgrade, it boots in about 30 seconds when there's not a month of updates, that is, from Microsoft. So it's something to keep in mind. I have no brand loyalty. I get that a lot. Really, it's whatever you've had success with in the past.
So I have a question, Matt. When did solid state drives come out?
Solid state drives have been out for about 7 years, but they really weren't practical for consumers until about 5 years ago.
How do we know if we have one? We got new computers, like, what was that, Laura, a year ago? Year and a half?
If you go into your device manager and look under your hard drive or your drives, you'll see the description, the actual model number of your drive. But if your computer boots from a cold start, completely down, obviously we're not talking about just waking it up from a sleep, but from a complete shutdown and reboot, if it comes up in about 20 to 30 seconds, chances are you're running a solid state drive. I will tell you that manufacturers of computers and laptops still are pinching their pennies a bit. So if your main concern is a large capacity drive for storage, they're probably going to still install a traditional serial ATA or a traditional IDE hard drive in it. So if you see that your drive capacity is 256 gigabytes or 500 to 512 gigabytes, which of course it'll never say 512, because once you format it for Windows, it knocks it down to about 470 of usable space. Chances are you've got a solid state drive.
I would think ours are solid state drives. We got those probably 3 years ago.
Was it that long?
Yeah, it was before 2020.
No, I don't think so.
Well, one of them at least. We might have got the other one afterwards.
Yeah, I think we got mine and Tiffany's later.
Oh yes, I forgot about yours. Yes.
Yeah, mine's like a year and a half old at the most. So
Are you happy with the way it operates?
I know. I know they weren't cheap, so they better be.
Well, that's another rule of thumb. You're absolutely right, because as you know, they'll pass that cost on to you.
Yeah.
I will say that a client asked me actually yesterday. Technically, he was my accountant, and he was complaining about his computer performance. Just out of curiosity, I went out to Amazon.com and noticed that they're selling a 1 terabyte drive solid state Samsung for $79.99. That same 1 terabyte drive a year and a half ago would be double that price.
So I have a question, nobody else does. As we transfer from desktops to laptops, what should we be aware of, know of? Because we've already made the decision here that we're not going to do any more. We're going to use laptops with larger screens if people want them, but we're not doing our desktop hard drives anymore.
Yeah, I guess the one thing you have to decide is what's more important to me, performance or battery life, because there is a give and take. That's usually in the settings themselves. When you look at a desktop computer, the selling point is typically how fast it is. When you look at a laptop, the bullet point is how long the battery life is. But there is a sacrifice for that. To extend the battery life as long as it can, the software engineers create a power profile for your laptop that reduces the power to your processor and in some cases your wireless adapter and other peripheral devices that are installed. So just make sure that your computer has a pretty stout processor and at least, I'd say these days, at least 8 gigs of RAM. Windows 11, of course, as you know, is the operating system out there. Microsoft is working on Windows 12, despite the fact that they have flat out lied several years ago. They claimed that Windows 10 was going to be it. Windows 10 was going to be their last operating system. They were just going to make enhancements to it every spring and every fall. Now they kept true to that promise for about 2 years. And then, of course, we all know Windows 11 became available, and they're currently beta testing Windows 12. But in your power profile, which depending on your operating system, you can get to a couple of different ways. I think the easiest way to get to it is probably through the control panel. You want to, how would we best get to it through the control panel? I'm just trying to figure out well, it looks like it's going to make a liar out of me. So I typically get to my power profile by right-clicking anywhere on my desktop, except for over an icon. If you right-click on an icon, it's going to give you the properties of that particular shortcut. But if you right-click anywhere on your desktop and click Personalize, and then look for Lock Screen, which will be in the left-hand column, scroll down to Screen Saver Settings, and then Power Settings. You'll notice that your power settings are going to probably be set for balanced, or if it's an HP, it'll usually say HP recommended. That means that it is trying to conserve the battery. Now, in most cases, if you're going from a computer to a laptop, but you're going to be using that laptop in the same capacity that you would your desktop computer, you're going to leave it plugged into a power source. So that being said, you can certainly change the power plan to high performance. That will crank your processor up to 100%, which will send the full wattage to it at any given time. So your computer is not going to be trying to decrease power to individual devices within your laptop in order to preserve the battery life. The old rule of thumb with laptops was exercise the battery, and it is certainly a good practice. It's always best to, if you want to extend the life of your battery, run your laptop off the battery for a while from time to time, run it down until it's about 10% and then charge it. By exercising that battery, you'll increase its battery life. However, if you fail to do that, batteries are really inexpensive these days. So you can find a replacement for anywhere from $15 to $25 on eBay. So if you fail to do it, it's not the end of the world. It's a $25 fee at most, versus probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sure we all are familiar with the store Batteries Plus. Batteries Plus, that was pretty much the only place, we could go for replacement batteries. And of course, at that point, they started at about $60 and went up. Now it's a replacement of around $20. So it's not the end of the world if it's not a habit you're used to. And frankly, I'm guilty as sin with that as well. if I'm in front of my laptop, it's plugged into the AC power. That's it. Just make sure that your laptops have a solid state drive, and preferably an Intel processor, but it's probably just me. Gamers seem to like AMD processors because they're a little less expensive and they're typically unlocked, which means you can send more voltage to them, which overclock is the term that they use. But I have found that Intel processors are just rock solid, and rarely cause blue screen problems with the operating system. Whereas I cannot say the same about AMD. I have run into Windows 10 laptops and desktop computers that throw blue screen errors, hardware errors with AMD processors. But other than that, you're good to go. What did you guys go with? now that I've spoiled it.
I think we got HPs that time.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with them. Either way, like I said, there's it really boils down to brand loyalty.
I mean, personally at home, I use a Mac. I think my laptop is an HP. Our desktops were Dell. So over the years, we've had a variety of things I think have all been good quality.
Yeah, they all last if you take care of them. Now, one thing I will say with laptops, make sure that you set them on a hard surface. If there's any fabric or paper underneath of them, typically the fan will lift the paper, and sometimes it'll prevent the laptop from cooling efficiently. If the processor in a laptop starts to get hot, it will automatically reduce the power to the processor. So you will immediately see a lag in performance. They're much more sensitive about heat, but as long as it's on a hard surface, the fan is fine.
So I'm definitely not a techie person. So I'm going to be one of those that says, here, I'm going to show my ignorance. But I do have a question. That might be a simple answer. But you said you take your laptop back and take it apart and put a new solid state drive in. If you offer this to corporations or whatever, and we see so much about the confidential information getting leaked out or whatever, how do you guard against that or ease the minds of companies that if you're taking their laptop back, or is that even
well, the workstation that I use is actually not on the internet. It's just a slave. It does whatever I tell it to do. When I'm done with my service and I've installed your new solid state drive, when I bring your laptop back to you, I also hand you your old hard drive. So that's up to you to destroy or keep. And I do encourage my clients to keep, because now you have a digital copy of all of your data that you didn't have before. And of course, I do carry liability insurance as well, just for such an occasion. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to pharmacies, for example, I have several clients who are pharmacists. A lot of the work that I must do is internal. Now the prices go way up, but I can take equipment into their environment and not leave and clone their hard drives there. So that's how I get around the HIPAA HIPAA rules is I actually do it on site. But fair warning, I charge my clients an hour and a half, whether it takes an hour, whether it takes 2 hours. Typically, it's right around an hour and a half. So I charge my clients an hour and a half to come get their computer or laptop, remove the hard drive, clone it, install the solid state drive, and then return it and just demonstrate to you that it's back up and running. Like I said, the benefit to cloning the hard drive is your icons haven't changed, your background is the same, all of your programs are there, all of your apps are there. It just runs faster. And of course, return your own hard drive. I have no interest in it. But a cloning process can sometimes go 2.5 hours, sometimes 3. If it's an old naughty serial ATA drive with 2 motors, one spinning the disks and one working the IO controller. So when you're doing the clone, it can take 2 to 3 hours, possibly, depending on the data. So that's why I always bring it here, because if I can turn my back on it, I don't consider that billable time. But I have, there is a pharmacy, as a matter of fact, right across from, it's on Win SD. I'm trying to think of the elementary school. It's Sharonville Pharmacy. And I did have to do that inside. And unfortunately, that was about a 4.5 hour service call. But good question. Very good question. Thanks, Chris.
No, thank you.
What kind of antivirus is everybody out there using? Don't say none.
We're on the Microsoft cloud, so all of our things are all on Microsoft.
It's all built in.
Mhm.
So I have a question about that. So my laptop is connected to my desktop. So anything, like, I can walk out of my office here and go home and pull up my desktop, and it's my laptop. My laptop is exactly where I left my desktop. So I'm assuming that since I'm on the same Microsoft platform and everything that I've logged into, that I have the same security and everything that I have here in the desktop.
Well, yes, it sounds like are you using SharePoint?
Well, SharePoint is one of the drivers. Yeah, we use OneView. SharePoint's
Okay.
one of the pieces of that.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. You're using, it's an emulation.
Okay.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, there is no wrong answer. Any antivirus beats none. Even Microsoft's, if it's on the cloud, is okay. Why? Because if you have redundancy, and that's the most important thing, is redundancy. The one thing that I've always hated in doing this for 25 years is telling a client that they've lost their data. It's never pleasant.
Yeah.
Ours is nice is because it automatically updates. We don't have to worry about ever, doing an update for it. I log in, everything's already been done through the evening, maybe. Makes it very simple.
Although
It
an update during the day can certainly slow things down.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's a little pricey up front. I guess you guys know this, but
oh
then
yeah,
it's,
oh yeah.
Well, it's super convenient. I mean, we can be anywhere. I can leave the office, I can go home, I could be across the country. Log on my laptop, it's just like I'm right at my desk. It makes no difference. So it's very convenient.
And same thing with our phones, because I log in on my phone through Microsoft also. So I'm actually on SharePoint when I'm using my phone for office stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I have a dear friend who is the network administrator for Duke Energy, and he is currently planning the implementation of doing exactly what kind of environment you guys are currently using. Only they're going to be using Amazon AWS to host their data. But yeah, same thing for the convenience and for the cost. Like I said, the front side cost is high, but the redundancy, the fact you don't have to worry, everything is always backed up on the cloud and duplicates, by the way,
Yeah,
and-
yeah, we're on two clouds.
yeah, exactly. So. Good deal.
Other questions?
Nothing for me, Alicia. How many computers do you guys have out there in the campus?
How many? Oh, we have a ton of computers. I have a laptop. It's a ThinkPad. It works pretty well for me. I did have a question for you though. So our campus isn't open yet, but we will be opening this summer, and upstairs we'll have some desktop computers for independent living residents. So kind of like a little technology center. I guess my question is there like a program or something that is senior friendly? I know I speak to a lot of seniors that really just shut off the computer, doesn't like the computer, won't use a computer. So is there any advice or words that you would give to the seniors that are really just not open to having anything to do with the computer?
Absolutely. For starters, I would say shortcuts, links on the desktop are your friend. Links themselves are typically the size 1 kilobyte in size. So you can literally have 30 or 40. They will not impact the performance of the computer. And the other thing I tell my older clients is you can't break it. It is not as fragile as it looks. Use it. If you find that you've painted yourself in the corner, hit the X in the upper right-hand corner and start again, but you can't break it. So don't be afraid of it. I think that's their biggest fear, is they recall when computers first came out and were several $1,000s. And I think a lot of them are like, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that liability, but if you tell them, look, even if you do manage to break it, and by the way, I'll give you $100 bill if you do, it's not the end of the world. It can be repaired or it can be replaced for around $400. So get on there and use it. Those are the biggest things I would tell them. Now, as far as an operating system that's more friendly than another, as you know, Windows 10 and Windows 11 look very, very similar. I almost think that the software engineers at Microsoft, when they came out with Windows 11, thought, this looks so much like Windows 10, we've got to change it. Well, I know, let's center the taskbar. So if you guys have ever used Windows 11, you'll notice that your Windows button is off center. It's the taskbar is center instead of to the left, as it always has been since my goodness, since Windows 3.1. But yeah, just if favorites on the desktop or links, to the web, or ask them what their interests are. Ask them what their interests are, and then show them that there's probably countless, websites that they can go to for that interest. Do you guys offer oh my gosh, I can't believe not sewing, but very similar to sewing patterns.
Crochet, needlepoint, knitting.
Needlepoint knitting, yeah, needlepoint. There are free websites that will let you print out templates for needlepoint designs. So that's something I think that a couple of my clients really enjoy, is I mean, my goodness, just countless different patterns. And then they can just superimpose it and print and needlepoint right over it. So.
Yeah, I like that idea of kind of just favoriting things that they are interested in, maybe getting them more interested in like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So yeah, I do like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Ask them where they grew up and say, well, you can go right to their local, grew up in Wichita, Kansas, we can bring up, CBS 8 or whatever, they'd say, you can read the news from your hometown. So, well, good. I'm glad I could help. And also those old desktop computers, if they start to become, if they're becoming headaches, again, a solid state hard drive of 512 gig is all people need, with few exceptions. But a 512 hard drive will give a client plenty of disk space for the operating system and a few apps. And they're around $60 at Best Buy. So if you buy the hard drive, I charge an hour and a half to come get it, work my magic, bring it back. It's, you know, you're looking at, if you buy the hard drive yourself, you're looking at $159 for a pretty substantial improvement. And it's one that you don't have to take my word for it. You can see, you know, you can experience the, you know, you're familiar with it before. And then when you turn it on and you see the after and you realize this thing just booted in about 20 seconds, you know, it's fun. So something to think about before. I'm sure your budget's much greater than mine, but in the case that it's not, we can extend the life of those desktops.
So that brings me to another question then, Matt. Instead of just, because our strategy now has been just kind of let the desktops die, and as they do, we switch to laptops. Should we plan on, you know, refurbishing our desktops with solid state drive?
It's not a bad idea. It depends on the computers, depends on the age of them.
They're old. Our
Well,
desktops are old. More than 10 years.
More than 10 years old. If they're running a 5th or 6th generation Intel processor, then they can likely go to Windows 10. If they came with Windows 7, does that sound right? Do you think they came with Windows 7?
Going back in history, Laura would know more than me. They were here before I got here.
Yeah, they've been around a while. They will not update to 11.
Right. I'm sure of that. TPM.
But they're running 10. Mine is anyway. I don't know what everybody else got theirs on.
Exactly. And frankly, I think that would be fine for Alicia's you know, computer lab, you know, for the campus, or schools around here could probably still use them in some capacity. So yes, certainly something to think about. If they came with Windows 7, typically they have the license printed on a Microsoft sticker. The upgrade to Windows 10 is free. It is from Microsoft. However, there are a few obstacles I have to jump in order to make the Windows 7 operating system applicable for the Windows 10 upgrade. But you can upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10 for free. And then you'll have a working computer that you can either donate, you know, and write off, or resell. So, and like I said, you're welcome to get those drives yourselves. They will be 2.5-inch format. So they'll look like little laptop hard drives. They weigh nothing. And I mean, probably less than an ounce, less than, you know, maybe 2 ounces max. So there was a time when I was very finicky and wanted it to look very professional, and I would always purchase a $9 chassis that would kind of form, you know, I could put the 2.5-inch format solid state drive into this 3.5-inch chassis. And then I realized, you know, Matt, this hard drive weighs nothing. It's not going to go anywhere. One screw typically will hold it in place. So I saved my clients the extra $9 or $10 or whatever it is now for that chassis. But yeah, we could throw a solid state drive in it. We could re-image it to Windows 7 and then apply a couple of updates that aren't available anymore, but that I do have that unlock the operating system, and then we'll take it to Windows 10. You're probably looking at about an hour and a half per. And then that gives you something to sell.
I mean, I have gotten like super used to the 2 devices. So it's nice to have my laptop to be able to do certain things on. But then like while I'm on here, if I have to check something over here, you know, or just during the day, if I'm looking at even the same program, I can be looking at one thing over here. I can be looking at the other thing I need to input the information into over here. It makes it really simple. So yeah, we may have to take a look at that. I mean, it looks like we've got 8 gig of RAM already, at least on mine anyway. with a 64-bit and 3.4 gigahertz processor.
Yeah, that's plenty. That's the 3.4 is probably the Q. Is it the Q 6400 or 6600?
Intel Core i3.
i5?
No, I'm pretty sure it's a 3.
i3?
i3.
That's fine.
They've been
You can
around a
still-
while.
Yes, well, and the i3s were kind of the entry level processors, which is probably why the performance isn't quite as hot as your new laptop, but still adequate.
Mhm.
But the i3 processors are fine, especially when you add a solid state drive to it. But if you're going to game and screen refresh rate is important to you, then you would want to go to an i5 or
They're in the
i7
office, they're
processor.
not going to be gaming. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah,
Yes,
no.
you sure? You sure about that? You're not going to be around all the time.
No, not here. We do have a staff member who does do quite a bit of video upload, download. I don't know what all he does with all his stuff. And he has, I think we got him a MacBook.
Yeah, he has a Mac.
hmm And he still sometimes has challenges. He says it'll take 10, 15 minutes to upload. I mean, sometimes he's doing quite a quantity of an hour more video, maybe. Any bits of advice for that?
Sadly, no. I can certainly explain it. Obviously the compression rate on a video is a little different than a typical file. So let's say 15 minutes of video, I think if it's 4K, can be probably 6 to 8 gigs in size. Now,
Yeah, I'd say he's doing
unfortunately,
some large.
yeah, and unfortunately, our internet service providers, they focus most of the bandwidth on download speeds. So they only give us a fraction of that bandwidth for upload speeds. So that's why your employee seems to be boring themselves silly watching that upload tick up. Depending on, well, it really doesn't matter who the internet service provider is. Your download speed is going to be about 90% of your overall bandwidth, and then the other.
There's no way you can change that, right? As a client, you can't really.
You can go to the business class, Spectrum business class, or I believe Alta Fiber business class, which
we're
will
already on. Yeah, we're already
okay.
on. Yeah.
Alta Fiber.
Well,
Okay.
we're on the Spectrum.
We're on
Right.
Spectrum Enterprise.
Okay. So so if it's enterprise, that's plus 500, I think, down. It's equal to 500 or greater gig down. It's still only about 25 gigs up.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's still going to trickle, especially when you figure that they're going to be part of the network. So that's
Right.
not all theirs. Obviously that's a fraction shared in the office. You may ask Spectrum certainly, in the future, I'm sure that we're going to be putting more and more and more videos out there for people. So you may want to ask them if they can increase your bandwidth. Just tell them that you would like your upload speed bandwidth to be increased if possible. And you may, since you're enterprise, there's a special, you guys have a number that is not privy to residential.
Right.
You've got the help desk, so
Well,
you can ask.
The challenges that we find is everything's a package. You can't increase your upload without increasing your download. It's like, so that's.
Yeah, well, the good thing about having the enterprise is, like I said, you've got that special 1-800 number that's only for businesses, and you can ask for level 3 support right off the bat. Whereas Porschmos like myself, if I call, and by the way, if I call, I'm really in need of them because it's obviously not an equipment problem on my end. I still have to jump through the hoops to get to the second person, to get to the third. You can just request level 3 tier support. Those settings are within your cable modem. So it is a setting that can be, in most cases, modified.
Well, we just learned something because we didn't know that.
Yeah, so
I know we pay a lot of money and I'm still not happy. So
well, that seems to be, I hear that a lot.
with any of them, I mean, they're all the same. We've been with all of them. So
Yeah. They
actually-
all have shortcomings.
yeah, we actually paid for them to bring fiber to us and drill through the basement wall to install it. And we're still not at the speed I would like to be.
Wow. Yeah, the problem is, it's still fledgling, even, and if there's a part of the environment that's still DSL before it gets to the fiber optic, they're gonna be lag points. But I do see spools of fiber optic cable though, in many more places during my travels. So hopefully they're gonna continue to swap out the old copper with the fiber optic and get you going. But I've heard that as well. The other complaint that I've heard, I don't know if you experienced this or not, but I've heard a complaint from many of my clients using Alta Fiber for their TV is that their audio and video don't synchronize. That their lips move and the video isn't keeping up. Something is off as far as the timing.
That happens. We blame that on, capacity. I don't know if that's the case or not, that the bandwidth just wasn't there for them to be in sync. It has happened from time to time.
With the Alta Fiber TV. Yeah. Oh, that's
I just know everybody promises all these lightning speeds for everything and they all lie. It never, never goes the way they say.
You're right. You're right. Well,
Or they
hopefully
say it's this amount of speed, but you have to divide that out between all your users.
Right.
Exactly.
So if each of us have 2 devices on our desk,
Right.
we've just doubled the amount of users and reduced the amount of our capacity.
And then Jeff uploads a video. So
that's right. Jeff uploads a video, the whole
Yep.
whole
I mean,
building suffers.
we're all sitting here watching little blue circles. So,
Yeah, that's the way it works. But they are working on the 1 gig. That will certainly be a game changer for you guys because that will help. But in the meantime,
what amazes me, Matt, and this is this is kind of out of your purview, but with all the progress we've made and fiber and all this kind of stuff, there are still centers throughout the country where everything comes into one, it all comes together. And I didn't really know that when I was living in Philadelphia. I found out one of those centers was somewhere north of Washington, D.C. And some construction crews dug into it and took the whole East Coast offline. So, there's still, we talk about the cloud and fiber, but it still all comes together and it's all hooked up underground somewhere at different points. And, it's susceptible to stupid little things.
You're absolutely right. In websites in general. And there's only about 5 or 6 big hosting sites. So even though there are millions and millions and millions of websites, they reside on about 1 of 5. They're on AWS, Amazon, they're on Microsoft, they're on Wix, they're on GoDaddy, or the other one that just escaped me. So you're absolutely right. There are big centers. The bombing in Tennessee a few years back, that was a centralized center that was hosting a bunch of websites as well. So you're right. You can make the speeds, but they're just taking you to one of about 4 or 5 central locations. I don't know if you guys realize or not. Probably not, because you guys are on Microsoft, and Microsoft is independent of Amazon's AWS servers. But the AWS servers themselves had a problem about a week ago, and lots of people were affected. Twitter, as a matter of fact, reported issues. So what's that tell you? Multi-billion-dollar company, and susceptible to a glitch, on Amazon. So I'm all for diversification and redundancy, but unfortunately, there are a few companies that still have a monopoly on it. Jeff, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you look at Bezos's bottom line, Amazon takes a loss. They don't make money. It's not profitable. It's the AWS side that where Amazon makes their money. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Great point.
Well, they're saying that's why he stepped aside, because he couldn't figure out how to make money.
Exactly. The Amazon, I mean, it's great for the consumer. You know, we can send something back without question. And they just eat that cost. And that's so it's great for the consumer, but it's not a good business plan if you're looking for profitability. So, you're right.
Any other questions from anyone? We've asked a lot of selfish questions, so thank you, Matt.
I
We
thoroughly
gave them
enjoyed
a
it.
chance. They didn't ask.
No, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was no selfish questions. They were great questions, all of them. I did have an opportunity. I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name, and I may have to peek. I did have an opportunity to meet a fellow Chamber of Commerce gentleman just a few days ago, and I trying David Smith.
Yeah.
Thank you, honey. David Smith.
Yeah.
That's him. Very nice fellow Hamilton Chamber of Commerce member. So we were able to take care of his
All of our members are nice.
Well, that's very true. But he's
We smack them upside the head if they're not nice to each other.
that's good to know. I'll try to pick my game up then. Thank you.
So, anybody else any questions? No? All right, Matt, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking some time to share with us today. We'll be back in 2 weeks on February 28th for Coffee and Conversations again. I'm still finalizing the presenter for that day. We are always looking for presenters. So if you're interested, if you have a topic that you're an expert on, or just moderately educational, anything that we can do to educate and inform, we are open to any of those topics. So please contact me and let me know if you've got anything. We will go from there. I know, Ben, I think I've got someone at First Financial I need to get in contact with too. So, you know, or share a referral. We're always happy to talk with some people and find
Ben
out
wants
what.
to say something.
No,
Yes.
can Matt put it, can you put your information out there? Can you let us know how we can get a hold of you? Phone number?
Yes,
all that
yeah,
good stuff?
absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the chat.
Yeah, so my information is actually on the Business Connect and the
Okay.
Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce website. That's under Home PC Helpers. And I believe that my cell phone is listed, which is fine.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate this, because I think what we learn is, even though I had determined what our strategy was for our equipment, now I'm not so sure. So, you know, things change. Technology changes, and you set a strategy, and you know that strategy is more than a year or two old. It's probably needs to be relooked at.
I mean, if you have the hardware, Dan, if I just put eyes on one of them, which I can, of course, you know, stop by and look at the Dayton Street office and put eyes on one. If the equipment is applicable, yeah, I can give you some very inexpensive options to move forward and either, like I said, capture some of that money back or donate it, you know, to the schools.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to stop by one day.
Yeah, that sounds great. I do need to do that anyway, for no other reason, just to meet you all in person again, just to say hello.
That would be perfect.
As we close down, Laura and Chris, could you guys stay on?
We can.
Guys, if you have nothing else for me, I'll bid you guys a great day. And again, my information is on the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce website. I also have a Facebook page, Home PC Helpers. My website is myhomepchelpers.com. That too gives us our prices and what we do. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer anything you've got. And even if it's something that you might deem silly and you just want to err on the side of caution, I'm happy to share my time with you guys. So everyone have a great day and thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right,
Thank
sounds
you
great.
all.
Thank you, Matt.
you.